Chaos Reign. Chaos Reign presents The Honest Truth of an Aboriginal with special guest Feerce Truth. Broadcast September the 26th, 2021. Enjoy.
The views expressed on Talk Real Solutions, hosted by Tyrone Thompson at TalkRealSolutions.com, are the views of Tyrone Thompson and do not reflect the views of TalkRealSolutions.com, YouTube, or etc. The content here belongs to Talk Real Solutions and its many contributors. Views and opinions expressed by all contributors belong to them and not TalkRealSolutions.com or Tyrone Thompson, the host, or etc. All data and information provided on the site is for informational purposes only. Talk Real Solutions makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, correctness, suitability, or validity of any information on this site and will not be liable for any errors, omissions, or delays in this information or any losses, injuries, or damages arising from its display or use. All information is provided on an as-is basis.
In the world where there's crime, corruption, violence, murder, rape, theft, and all forms of atrocities that plague the world in which we live in today, we are living in a state of chaos. And it'll take a greater or more extreme chaos to restore the order in which the world we live in today. Good evening, black people. This is Chaos Reign here. And today, probably going to do something a little bit different here. Something that I think I had a discussion, was like last year, I believe, maybe. But nonetheless, we'll have this discussion and see how this will turn out. For those that's not aware, if you go to TalkRealSolutions.com, you'll find a 3-point plan for black empowerment, black achievement. Also, there's a list of black established banks located near you in a city in America. I think there's like maybe 30, under 30 black-owned banks still existing, maybe less now because of this situation. But nonetheless, if you already have an account on one institution, it wouldn't hurt to invest money into another black bank yourself. So find one near your city and invest in one today. And like always, we always, for the last couple years, on the TRS call-in show podcast side, we emphasize if you're a person that's making fair or decent money, it wouldn't hurt if you could start what we like to call a black-owned business or your own business. Either way, it's always good to have different forms of income, and starting a little small business that will eventually grow wouldn't hurt. So if you're in the spiritual of the entrepreneurial spiritual mood, and I say not everybody could be entrepreneurs, but all of us could have a side hustle, and a small black business is one of many good side hustles a person can have in this new era we're in. So like always, look into that as where you are in life, look into it. Also on this website, there's the latest news articles of current events and things that's going on. So all that's on the website, including the donation tab as well. So go to TalkRealSolutions.com today and check it out. Let me see what's going on because I heard something. Okay. Another thing, you can also find this show on Facebook as well. Another thing, you could also follow us on Facebook, Talk Real Solutions on Facebook. Join the page, and you'll get invite to the private little chat room on Facebook as well. So go to, and I literally mean go to the Facebook page of Talk Real Solutions as well. And what else I want to say? And there's a YouTube of Talk Real Solutions as well under the same name. So find that. And let me think. Oh, I forgot. Yes, I forgot. You can also subscribe to the Chaos Reign channel as well. I go unnamed Chaos Reign. Same name, same brand. And you can also follow me on Facebook, Erick Reign, E-R-I-C-K, Reign. That's my name on Facebook, E-R-I-C-K, yep. And you can also follow me on Twitter at ChaosReign7 as well. So subscribe to the Chaos Reign and my social media outlooks as well. And I think that's the rundown. So now let's go to the title at hand, shall we? Today's show is titled, and let me put this on hold, Chaos Reign presents The Honest Truth of an Aboriginal. And today, my special guest, as I have up here for the very first time on TRS, is the one and only, the Feerce Truth. And I also see him on Facebook. And also you can follow him on Facebook as well. So now, the Feerce Truth, if you may, star 61, so I can see on the board, so I can let you up. All right, so everybody give a warm applause to the one and only Feerce Truth-Seeker. Welcome, Feerce Truth. Can you hear me?
Hey, greetings.
Greetings.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Good.
You sound clear and perfect. Wonderful.
Okay,
Always
yeah, I'm
positive.
great. And yourself?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm doing good. So welcome for the very first time here on TRS, Talk World Solutions, and on the Chaos Reign podcast as well.
It's a pleasure.
Before we go into this subject and many other discussions ahead, I'd like to take a moment in time. Hold on 1 second. I got some. Let me take care of that. That's getting annoying. Oh, no, okay. We're good. I'd like to take a step back in the past and move forward into the present, where we're at, and potentially go onward to the future. So for the first time here on Talk World Solutions, can you tell people a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so, greetings. Do you call? I am Feerce Truth Seeker. The Kodoi Ayasti Ganayegi Dagwadoa. And I am what you call an indigenous American. Basically, my paternal and maternal lineage goes back to the original peoples of the Americas. The original peoples of the Americas go by various names, but, we can say that, you can name different tribes, but I like to say that I'm a mound builder, which predates the tribes. And I've been doing research on the topic for, I'd say, about somewhere around 30 years. I spent a lot of time in the early 90s doing a lot of research into my personal family history and also studying the global history of our people across the globe. We're talking about ancient African history. I spent time in the Garvey movement under the Carlos Cook. I don't know how knowledgeable your listeners are about the Garvey movement.
I want to consider well read. I read his book, complete book, The Black Book of Life.
Okay.
Of what was the book title again? It was dedicated for the first 100 of his 100th birthday. It was released back in 1987, if my math suits me. And that was one of better books that someone composed of the life of Marcus Garvey, from all his teachings, all his news articles, and his philosophies, all in one book. And I would tell everybody it's a must-read book because you get in the mind of where people get their ideals of structured organization and how to deal with oppression in a way. How to deal with the opposition properly. It's like strategy at the end of the day. How to organize people. So continue.
Well, Garvey was a master organizer, and I would say that looking at that particular blueprint would solve a lot of the challenges that our people are still pondering on in terms of liberation and stuff like that. He gave you the blueprint on how to run government, how to operate businesses and stuff like that. So that really attracted me to that end. The particular branch of the Garvey movement that I had belonged to back in those days was under Carlos Cooks, that particular branch, which was that was the African nationalist construction movement, which was an outgrowth of the African nationalist pioneer movement. So pretty much, for those who don't know who Carlos Cooks was the ideological son of Marcus Garvey. Cooks was he was part of the Garvey movement as a child. His parents, he was from the Dominican Republic. And his parents were part of the Garvey movement, so he was naturally, as a child, raised up in it. And then when he grew up, he took that movement to a different level, and he pretty much fine-tuned a lot of the aspects of that movement. So I was part of that particular branch. So after that, I wound up doing as part of that particular movement, I wound up going to Africa and actually living in Africa for a little while on a fact-finding mission. I got a chance to meet a lot of influential people in government there. The first residence that we lived in when we were there was the old headquarters of the OAU. And so, it was a very interesting experience. And, I was just a young college student at that particular time. So at that same time, I was also doing a lot of genealogical research. And I was trying to find more information about my family lineage and things of that nature. And so doing my genealogy, I was really trying to find, because I already knew about my indigenous line. So what I was basically trying to do, I was trying to find some genealogical information connecting to Africa. And so that's where a lot of the roadblocks began in terms of my search. And so I started buying a lot of books dealing with genealogy, how to trace your roots, how to utilize the National Archives and stuff like that. And so I found that for the most part, my ancestry was here. That's not to say that there is no African there. But in terms of what I was able to come across, it was here. So I began doing more and more, I began embracing more and more of my indigenous culture, and I started going more to powwows and stuff like that. and meeting family members at powwows and things of that nature. And also I came across the teachings of, I don't know how knowledgeable your audience is about the Prophet Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish Science Temple, but I started coming across the teachings of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and the teachings I kind of didn't really resonate with it at first. I was really trying to poke holes in it. And the more and more I tried to poke holes in it, the more through research I came to find out that he was actually right on point with a lot of his philosophies. And so, I became nationalized as a Moor. And I also started doing a lot of community work. And also, while I'm speaking, if you need to interject, feel free to interrupt me because I can go on.
No, go ahead. The floor is yours. I'm here. Listen, if I will, yes, I will. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I began to embrace the teachings. I became nationalized as a Moor, and I also during that same time. I was practicing, being initiated into different spiritual systems. So we're talking about Afro-Caribbean, Afro-Latin American spiritual systems, things of that nature. Also African spiritual systems as well, and also studying Indigenous American spirituality. I became an apprentice to an indigenous shaman and things like that. And so I started to, during this time, I would go to different lectures here. Where I am, I'm in New York. I don't know where you're located. But I'm here in New York. So in New York, you had all kinds of conscious movements and all kinds of schools of thought. And I had been through all of the different schools of thought that were around at the time. And I go to the different lectures at the Harriet Tubman School, the Slave Theater, all of these different venues and stuff like that. And I was also a street vendor up in Harlem and also in Brooklyn. And so I'd come across, a lot of different people with a lot of different ideologies. And, a lot of people were searching for the same type of information that I was looking for in terms of, basically learning about their history, where they come from. And a lot of people trying to figure out, their personal story, and a lot of people were running into the same roadblocks when it came to making that connection to, as far as tracing the lineage to the continent. Again, that's not to say that the ancestry is not there. It's just that was a major roadblock. But most of the people that I had come across as a vendor and going to these different schools of thought, the common denominator that 8 out of 10 people had was that they had indigenous ancestry. That's pretty much an introduction. Also, around that time, I started forming a study group dealing with our indigenous history and stuff like that. And so we're talking like the mid to late 90s. I'm one of the pioneers, believe it or not, of what they call the Aboriginal movement today. I said one of the pioneers. You know, they were, you know, like, you could trace that ideology going way back. But in terms of like in this particular technological age with, you know, social media and stuff like that, I'm one of the pioneers of that. There was, when I was doing it, there was no Dane Calloway or any of the new guys that are around at this particular time. So around that same time, I also became, well, a little bit later, getting into the early 2000s, I was nationalized with the Washita Nation. And that's pretty much an introduction. There's a lot more, you know, to my story, but you know, I'll leave it at that. And if you have any questions or anything like that.
Okay. Excellent. Well, to the subject at hand, and you did say a lot, and that's pretty much a well sort of I would say portfolio of how you came to where you are now. One thing, and to let people know, the call number for today's show is 712-770-4160. The access code is 917-324-pound. I repeat, 712-770-4160. Access code is 917-324-pound. Today's subject, Chaos Reign presents the honest truth of an Aboriginal. Now, one of the few things about Aboriginal, have you ever did like a DNA test to check how much of a percentage you are Native American? Or you just went throughout your own journey and you feel it was not a necessity? That's one of my
well, I did both. And I did through genealogy. And also through DNA as well. Now, the thing with DNA is that when you do a DNA test, I didn't do it the traditional way that most people do. What I did was took the raw data from the DNA company and then uploaded it to GEDmatch. And then from there, I had geneticists that our particular group or nation rather uses, and he's a geneticist based in Australia. And what he does is he's a specialist in what they call Paleo-American DNA. So in other words, when you get your data from, let's say, a company like 23andMe or Ancestry or whatever, you can't just take it just on face value because those particular companies, they don't specialize in Paleo-American DNA. They don't even know anything about that. So that's why we send ours to the geneticist in Australia who does that, and he breaks down those markers even further. And through that, he was able to trace, he does a scientific descent, and then he breaks down those markers, and I was able to see how I am a blood right heir of the original peoples of the Americas.
Okay. Since joining the Nation of Aborigines, are you familiar with people like Ali Muhammad?
Yes, I'm familiar with Ali Muhammad.
Okay. Who else? To be honest with you, when I continue, I did talk and interview another brother that was also associated with Ali Muhammad, and he is his own movement. He knows contracts and laws. You might not know him. His name is Coach Ali.
No.
Yeah, he's also, I believe, affiliate or with Ali Muhammad a bit. But my thing is this: one of the few things that I've noticed that our people are not really abrupt to is the strength of the pen and paper. What I mean, there are many contracts that's being laid out, even right now as we speak, where, you know, people that's in higher ups creating bills and laws, some locally and some in the higher office, like, you know, the White House, etc. And our people don't understand the power of what we see or read about when people are putting things into bills to be accepted for the majority of the population of people in America. I don't know if you can give us a little backstory of the history, how well knowledge you are of the history of contracts. What is it? Where it really was started, and you know, just a little background.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's not my area of expertise, but you know, okay. I can give a little bit of information on that. You know, these things, you know, in terms of contracts and stuff like that, is you know, nothing new. You know, like they say, there's, you know, nothing new under the sun. You know, what these people who are in power now, all they have done is watch what our forefathers did way back in the days, and pretty much, you know, co-opted, you know, or inherited that system, and then just utilize it for their own conquest, you know. So a lot of these things, you know, you can trace going all the way back into biblical times, you know. Even you know, even what they call you know, now tariffs and, you know, stuff like that, and you know, like the word tariff, you know, that comes from I forget the brother's name, but that's actually somebody's name, who was a Moor, that they you know, inherited that from, you know. You know, a lot of these things that they do now has its roots in things that, you know, came from us. Pretty much, you know. So, you know, it's very important for our people to, like you say, don't be afraid to study things like law, you know. Like I was just watching something on YouTube earlier, and they were talking about the I don't know how old you are, if you remember, but back in the days, they had the incident that happened with the 5 kids in the Central Park jogger case, and you know, they accused these 5. They did the movie on Netflix about them, the Central Park. They call them the Central Park 5. You know.
Yeah, I remember. I heard about that.
Yeah, I heard about it. But the discussion that I was looking at today, they were saying, you know, it's a shame that those kids didn't. Those, I don't like to call kids because kids are goats, but that those youth didn't know their rights. You know, because they were railroaded. You know. And it's very important, you know, for our people, you know, particularly our melanated people, you know, to know law. You can't be a melanated person and not know law. You know, it's very important, because that's how all of these things happen to our people, is because they prey on our ignorance. You know, I was a cop that I was talking to years ago was saying that, you know, one of the reasons why people of color get violated is because they don't know their rights. So it's easier for them to violate someone of color as opposed to someone of the Caucasian persuasion, because a lot of them, you know, unfortunately, a lot of them know their rights and we don't.
Another question. Because you mentioned in regards to law enforcement, have you ever experienced any, because you're in the East Coast, especially of New York, you know, New York stays, in regards that your rights were violated to the point that you had to go and sue and got some payments for any, I guess, misconduct, if any, from law enforcement?
You mean to me personally?
Yeah. Just in general,
Yeah, fortunately, it hasn't happened to me. I know some people actually. I'm gonna have to sue somebody soon because here in New York, they're trying to force people to take these vaccines and stuff like that, and they're letting people go from their jobs and stuff because they don't want to take this jab. So it's a lot of lawsuits about to be filed.
My thing, because this is not something new. They done this 50 years ago when they first enacted, even with the first of that, which they were successful at the time with the mandates. I remember when Judge Brown talked about it, and when I look at it overall, I say, well, damn, this is really nothing really new. They've been at this. They've been doing this. And now because we live in more of a modern technical era where we're shifting now, that is just more, to me now, more of an experimentation being conflicted on the people, especially in the West we call America. And I've seen some people and a few people that have started walkout jobs are fighting back. But my thing, if this was put through legislation and enacted now, if I'm not sure if that was true, I mean, I really look into it, but it made you more knowledge in this. That my thing is this, that how far with all the necessary affidavits and stuff, paper, how they going to really hold not in this new social order we're in now? Because it seems to me that they're tightening up with these bills and these things that are either pushed through or not pushed through to get the people and the will of people to submit their will. What's your take on it? If you want me elaborate, but
Yeah, well, the whole thing realistically is that they do it because we have these adhesion contracts that we're unaware of from the time that we're born up until the time that we become an adult. They get us into these adhesion contracts that allow us to be what they call wards of the state. And you actually waive a lot of your rights by doing that. And so we're talking about all the way from the time when you're born and, you get a birth certificate, and the time you get, a social security number, you sign up for selective service, you get a voter registration card, you get a library card, you get all of these different things that just locks you in the system so much. You get a marriage license, all of these things make you a ward of the state. And when you do that, you pretty much waive a lot of your what they call sovereignty.
Okay.
That's just it goes deeper than that, but that's it, in a nutshell. And so it's hard to really, and even all the way going down to the driver's license, and they don't tell. See, the thing is, they don't tell you these things. They don't explain anything to you. They just violate you, and they don't give you an explanation on why they can violate you. But the real solution, if you want to talk solutions, we spoke, because we can talk about the problems from now until, the next 20, 30 years. And these conversations that you and I are having and, and myself and my associates have on a daily basis, these conversations can continue going on. But, until we adopt the philosophy, like we spoke earlier, we spoke about Marcus Garvey, people like Marcus Garvey and Carlos Cooks, those people emphasize that we have to create our own and not rely on the system. I don't want to sound racist or anything like that, but to be totally honest with you, integration was the worst thing that really happened to our people, you know, and it created a mindset that we have to rely on the system to do for us what we can do for ourselves. You see what I'm saying? Garvey, if you look at Garvey and you look at his particular program, Garvey had a whole governmental structure. You know, he showed you everything to run a nation. You know, he had different ministries under his nation. You know, and he had the Black Cross nurses. He had the Black Star Line. He had the Black Shipping Line. He had you know, he had a military force. You know, he had everything. He had a printing press. You know, they put out their own media, and we were talking about at this particular time, they didn't have the modern technology that we have with computers and, you know, the internet and all of that stuff. He didn't have it. He did this way back in the early 1900s, you know, and he had the largest movement among our people way back then without modern technology. So now I always ask people, I say, well, what's our excuse in this day and age? We're actually in a worse situation now than back then with all of this modern technology that we have. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yes, I follow you.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Continue. I'm not going to interrupt you.
Oh, yeah, you know, I'm saying that, you know, what's our problem? You know, it's, you know, we're getting the wrong education. It's like, you know, like me, I work in the school system. Should I say the food system? You know, but realistically, you know, these youth, they're not getting a real education because all they're doing is teaching them how to go out and be a slave. They're not teaching you entrepreneurship in school. They're not teaching you to leave school and start your own business. They're teaching you how to leave school, go to college, and get a job. And you go to college and, you know, you get a bunch of degrees and stuff like that. And more than likely, when you finish college, you're not even going to start working in your field. You may leave college and you know, have a menial job because they want experience. You know? You know, they don't, it's like, you know, when Garvey came, he came to meet up with Booker T. Washington. And Booker T. Washington emphasized, you know, our people learning trades and, you know, things of that nature, you know, which, you know, they don't even really push these days, you know. Like me, I work in a trade school. You know, I'm more for trades than, you know, going to college.
Excellent. What trade you do? What's your trade?
Carpentry.
Oh, that's wonderful. All right, continue. Wonderful.
Yeah, but it's a general trade school that teaches all trades, you know, and they don't emphasize the trade. That when I was going to school, they had trades in the high school and junior high schools. They don't have that anymore. You know, but mentioning that to say, you know, that's why Garvey came here to say he wanted to meet up with Booker T. Washington, who was, you know, pushing that ideology. You know, that's what we need to get back. Like a lot of our people, you know, don't, you know, we're looking so much for education. We don't even put an emphasis on farming anymore. You know, and that's a valid skill to know how to farm.
Yes, indeed. Yes, it is. Indeed.
You know,
indeed.
We have to do for ourselves on all levels. You know, you have to feed yourself, clothe yourself, and shelter yourself. You know. You know.
One thing, because I'm going to open one line, because someone did raise their hand.
Mm-hmm.
My thing is this, and it's just me. At the time when civil rights was started and getting on their way back in the 50s and then slowly concluded in 64, roughly a decade later, that this was structured and organized to keep black people that's originally from the soil, to keep more, I want to say disorganized, but to give them what they want, which they're shipping to start mixing in people, or what they want to call people of color, into the system, or what I like to call absorb you now.
Right.
Because there was only a few options. Yeah, that's what civility is to absorb you. What that means you're going to absorb yourself genetically now, meaning you're mixed in with these people. Right. And they're going to create the atmosphere for you to mix in much easier after 64. Because if you look at 67, they were going to struck down misogyny laws. Because once you're already in the system and you said we're all together, the next stage was to now make it more easier access to you, so they married these people. And listen to a lot of male and female content creators. Certain famous ones, like some of the female side, they're, from what they have understand, is they think that the black man at first wanted this more than everybody else. But I'm thinking, no, it's black people wanted this though. Because if you hear the conversation with the average Negro, Real Truth, it's a lot of black people are comfortable being around other groups of people and giving them their all and not want anything in return. You ever notice that?
Now, who are these people?
Giving them all.
Who are these people?
We're not going to refer. I am not going to refer names because, like I said, we don't do free promotions here, unfortunately.
Right.
I would do it, but
no, I'm just saying in general terms. Who in general terms? Who are you referring to? In general terms.
This is like mostly content creators. Some on the male side and some on the female side. I would say more on the female side, ones that's popular. And the funny thing with YouTube, since I'm going there, it's a very useful tool. We use it now as people, since we're on there. We use it to promote the more of the separation and more of the propaganda against each other, where we should not even deal with each other in all forms, social, economic, and sexually. Maybe, sorry. Let me take that back. Sexually is fine. And these are the foundations that hold not only cultures, but holds communities. Civilization.
Right.
So that's something I just want you to, that's what I was laying out. So, but
we should be, we should always, as Malcolm and many of the other people who came before us, talk about, we should always have a united front. We shouldn't be bashing each other, because at the end of the day, we're all victims, of this oppressive system.
Correct.
We should be putting any differences that we have. We should be putting those aside and see where the commonalities are and play up the commonalities, and the differences are really minuscule.
I agree. So let me open the line, see who this is. First caller, open line. Who's this?
Hello, Gary. Hello, the brother. Are you from the Ouachita Nation?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I was back in the early 2000s. I was with the Ouachita, the branch here in New York.
Okay, I was just curious to know, since the Empress said, she passed away a couple of years ago, and I know that she had some things that it was tied up. It was supposed to be the records of it was supposed to be released by Congress, where she did win her case for her the land for Louisiana, and I just wanted to know if you had any updates on it.
No, I don't have any updates on that. I know that by on paper, she definitely had rights to I think it was 68,000 something like that, 68,000 acres of land or something like that.
For the original Louisiana before they chopped it up and made it into other states.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but she didn't have the manpower to really, enforce that.
Yeah, I know she won something. I know she did get something out of it, but I know now it was supposed to be left in her son's hands. So I was wondering if he was continuing that battle with her, without her being here, but if he was still continuing to fight for her land, or if he just settled for a payment.
Yeah, I really would. I'm gonna choose not to speak on that for certain reasons. Okay. But I will say that there are some that are still. Her son is still around. And I think some of the grandchildren are, still trying to continue that. Yeah.
Well, that's good. I wish them the best.
Mm-hmm.
What's your name again, Miss? If I may.
Call. Thank you for taking my call. I appreciate it. Thank you, Gary.
Hello, Miss. What's your name again before you leave?
I think she hung up.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, thank you. And like I said, if y'all want to call in, please call in. Call number to today's show, 712-770-4160. Access code 917-324-POUND. I repeat, 712-770-4160. Access code 917-324-POUND. Tonight's subject, Chaos Reign presents The Honest Truth of an Aboriginal. Now, what are the myths and false notion of an Aboriginal? That people are not abrupted. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Myths and false notions of an Aborigine. That's a very good question.
I'm gonna put you to work today, Mr. Shrew. So you know how it is, man. I gotta ask the question. Yeah. Hey, listen. See, people must understand. As much as I bring the chaos and I have to bring this order, I have to really, when the spirit does catch me, something has to really, the question has to be asked. So, but nonetheless, don't mind me.
It's all good, brother. It's all good. So I would say one of the biggest myths about the Aboriginal movement is when I hear a lot of people saying that we are not Moors. Okay. Firstly, again, when I was doing, I'm one of the pioneers of this particular movement. Okay, and a lot of these people who are on the scene now, many of them weren't even born yet. So I can tell you from one who was active in the 90s that the Moors were the ones that were saying that we are Aboriginal before anybody. And we have to look at, the fact that there is a lineage, a lot of people think that, this particular movement, just started like 5-6 years ago. But that's totally false. One of the like the sister who was just on the line, she asked about the Empress. Okay. And for those of y'all who don't know, we're talking about the Empress Verdiasi Tiari Gostin Ilbe of the Washita Nation. Okay, and she was she was a Moor. Okay, now we're talking about the Washita Nation. The Washita was an indigenous nation of Moors. Okay, and she always talked about Noble Drew Ali. As a matter of fact, she even stated that she was related to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and all of the, like, what you call, well, let me not say that. Let me backtrack. So during the 90s, you had a lot of people of our particular melanation who were calling themselves Indian at this time. And a lot of people caught on to this thing due to a book that came out called Black Indians by a gentleman by the name of William Lauren Katz. Okay, and
is that the one with the black man and an Indian side by side? Is that
yes,
the
it is.
With a black man and an Indian?
Yes, it is. That's the book. That's the book.
Oh. Okay.
So
you know, I think. Okay.
Your phone is breaking up real bad. Can you repeat what you just said? Hello?
I said, is my phone good? I sound clear?
I hear you now.
I sound better? Oh
yeah.
Damn. Hello, can you hear me? All right. Continue. Just continue. Let me fix it.
Okay. Yeah, that's the book. With the brother and the indigenous person of what they call Mongoloid persuasion. So that book came out in 1986, and a lot of our people, bought that book and became more interested in learning about the indigenous side of their heritage. Now, mind you, that book is not the first book written on the topic, but it was a book that was very popular about that particular topic. And so during this time, I would go to powwows and I would see a lot of melanated people, in indigenous regalia and stuff like that, and I would be the one at the powwows, telling people, hey, that we are the original, what they call Indians. And most of those people that look like us would, they would be debating me on that. They'd be like, no, we are the descendants of African runaway slaves, and we married in with the Indians. Now, that's not to say that that didn't happen in some instances, but when you talk about in ancient times, pre-Columbian times, there were indigenous people.
Is my mic good now?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right, they were in pre-Columbian times. They were plenty of melanated Indians. You had those who came over from the continent during the Mali expeditions under Mansa Musa or Bubakari, and even before that with the Kemites and the Phoenicians, and even before that, you had indigenous people here that were always here. So you had many different waves of migrations here, and you also had an indigenous what they call quote unquote Black Indian that was here as well. So these people that were that I would run into who called themselves Black Indians at that time, they weren't saying that they're Aboriginal. That wasn't the narrative. Nowadays, post Dane Calloway and others, because there were others before Dane Calloway who were pushing the same type of ideology, but they kind of, they kind of changed it up a little bit. They took little elements of what the Moors were saying, and just kind of switched it up a little bit, and it just became an Indian thing, and the Moor became excluded from that. So that's one of the biggest myths about the Aborigines.
All right. Excellent. It's funny that the funny thing about all this.
Oh, you want some more myths?
Yeah, go ahead.
Another myth that I hear a lot. You have a lot of people who I've heard. I'm not calling any names or anything like that. But you have a lot of people who put pictures up and they make they give certain stereotypical images of those of our people on the continent and those of our people who are Aboriginal here to show like the differences in phenotype and stuff like that. That's another myth because from someone who's lived on the continent, I can tell you that I ran into people over there who look exactly like people over here. Identical, So that's another myth that I hear among people who have come to me personally, who call themselves Aboriginal today.
One thing I've noticed, and I'm not sure if you heard this or experienced this, I think one good example is Kyrie Irving, that he is, I guess, on his mother's side, is part Native American. He could not get none of the, say again?
Yeah, I heard that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that he couldn't get any benefits or partial reparations from that side until he was in the NBA, and he had to pay money to get that, which I find it very odd and funny. That no one really sit him down and try to help him, since he does have some lineage, that he has to pay out of, and usually, mostly that, especially for a man that come from a Native American, probably a black person in general, that you should not be paying just to show proof to get some benefits and royalties in this country as a Native American, because Native Americans do get reparations. You get me?
Yeah, you shouldn't. Yeah, I agree. You shouldn't have to pay to do that.
I think he was duped in doing that because he doesn't really see. One thing when I look at most people, entertainers, athletes, etc., they're not overall, I could say, really bright overall, because with all your money and depending who you're connected with, you should have your circle much better and tight to help you facilitate this world you're in, especially if you're ranking money like that, on the average. But overall, we know that most people that make money, like their money is different how they make their money than us, that their money, at the end of the day, if they're not careful, will go back to this community tenfold once their career is done. And trust me, we've seen it happen. So for him to start paying just to get the reparations on his mother's side of Native American is telling. It's pretty much frightening and scary, because now if you paid, there's going to be strings attached to that, because you couldn't get in there, but they allow you to come in once you pull in millions of dollars to them.
Right.
So I will always advise people that if you do have a parent that is Native American lineage, you need to start doing some strict studying and fall and know your rights legally to get that. Because, to be honest with you, let's say black people are mixed with other people from West Africa, right? If we want to go there, right? Mm-hmm. That still, you're still claims to this land because our people overall, have built this country, built this nation, and still maintain this nation as we speak right now. Mm-hmm. That you owe black people something. You get me? And black people overall don't know how to go about to get these people to pay them what is rightfully theirs. And that will go to like many things, and we'll talk about the solution problem in a little bit. But right now we're just going to lay the groundwork that there are some work that needs to be done. And doing a Twitter like with what's his name? Yvonne Cornell and the other dude about ADOS and all this stuff, it still has not drawn circulation or actual physical movement for people to say, we need our shit back. It's time to pay up. I don't see much conversation, discussions on that. You get me? So I'm thinking that way how people are moving now, because we are considered, quote, integrated, they just stop completely. Like all types of movements needed to get what's rightfully yours has stopped. It ceased from Gen X till now. You get me? Mm-hmm. And we know we live in very much tough times and dangerous times. Besides, getting inoculated, which is least our problems, we got something much more bigger, that this system itself and the fiat currency is going to completely crash and start over with something totally new. True. And majority of people don't know how to operate in this new, what they call this so-called reset, which I call the restructuring of control, in a way. Because that's what it is at the end of the day. It's not something that they don't seek to liberate billions of people. No, they want to find ways how I can control more of you and make you give me more while you struggle to stay afloat. Case in point. Yep. I always hear enough content creators, one especially Cerulean Gray, one of my other good friends, how when he talks about the United States dollar when they went off the gold standard back 50 years ago, of this day, or of this time, back in 71. And we look at as the gold standard is no longer the reserve, you see the United States fiat currency. Hold on. Make sure my thing. You can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. The fiat currency starts to dilapidate. It starts to have less usefulness. The value and the inflation goes up every year, maybe 5 to 10 years. And now even to the point where now they're trying to expunge more money off the people in America, the working people or whatever, lower class, middle class, whatever you want to call it. And while other institutions that are protected by government get all the money. So you're seeing a shift of poor and rich again, like it was always in existence for centuries ago. It was only up to the 40s that it start to shift and create what we call middle class. You get me?
Yep.
When we look at in history, and remember, Noble Drew Ali came around because he was born in the late 1800s, probably 86. And when he was learning what he learned and knew Marcus Garvey and, where they had a falling out, probably for good or wrong reasons, when I can go into that. But he found alternate ways how Americans, black people, how they should move. Now, and mind you, when he was taken out, he was gone now 92 years ago, after Garvey was sent back home to Jamaica back in 1927. 2 years later, he was gone. You get me? Mm-hmm. And if you look at the timetable of people that were doing certain things and they were taken out, you see a shift of where Americans, especially black people, were going at that time. Mm-hmm. So, and mind you, the Nation of Islam, they came into existence the year later after Elijah Poole a.k.a. what they call Noble Drew Ali, died in 29. So they came and established in 1930. So they know that they can't have certain people teaching people how the system really works. What is language? The words, which is the hieroglyphs of control. Meaning that if you can't decipher my hieroglyphs, you can't decipher my code that I'm using to attack you. Your physical death is inevitable, like always, in time, because you live in a very uncertain environment behind enemy lines. But one thing, before that gets that direction, I get you verbally, mentally. Then the physical body is mine. You get me? This is all psychological warfare, brother. You get me? That has done and has worked is works. So that's what I'm going to lay out. If you want to expound, you may go ahead as I'm looking. See if anybody, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to interject. When Marcus Garvey was in prison, Noble Drew Ali had went and visited Garvey, and there is a letter. I have that letter here somewhere.
If you can find it, read it to me, please. I want to hear this.
Yeah, I don't have it on my person right now, but I can get it to you. I can get it to you at a later date. You can have it in your archive. But yeah, he did when he went to visit him. Garvey had given the Prophet Noble Drew Ali the go-ahead to continue what he was doing, because he said, hey, brother, you're right. Our people need a nationality. And, he gave him the thumbs up to keep doing what he was doing. I'll email you. I'll email you that information when I pull it up.
I mean, if you can send it through Facebook, will be good, because it's like
Facebook. Okay, Messenger.
Yeah, I think it could work the same way. It should be the same way. Yeah, just send it to me. Yeah, don't worry, you'll see. But you'll check at the end of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, but go on.
Okay. Yeah. So right now, if we look, these are real good people to look at. In terms of what you're saying now, these are real good people to look at in terms of, because a lot of times we try to, when we say we, I'm talking in general. A lot of times we try to reinvent the wheel, and the wheel is, already there. If we look at the blueprint that these people laid down, everything is there for us. If you look at Garvey, you look at Carlos Cooks, you look at Prophet Noble Drew Ali, man, you have a wealth of artillery that you could utilize. To give you an example, Garvey gave you everything that you need to be able to organize and set up a whole government. Noble Drew Ali came and told you basically, about civics, and nationality. If you study his works, it's all there. Carlos Cooks, right now, especially with what they're doing now, these people are not playing. They're firing people from their jobs, who are not taking this vaccine. I know plenty of people who've been let go from their job because they say, I'm not taking the vaccine. And if you do happen to be fortunate enough to stay on your job by having a religious exemption or medical exemption, which most of them they're denying, but if you do happen to be so fortunate, they want you to get tested every 2 and 3 times a week. And with those tests have all kind of chemicals and substances in it that are carcinogenic, like ethylene oxide, and a whole bunch of other stuff that is really bad, you know, and could cause all kinds of side effects after you've been exposed to it on a regular basis, in a prolonged basis. So these people are not playing, and there's more to come. You know, they haven't even gotten started yet. You know, with the lockdowns and the food shortages and stuff like that. So, you know, right now is not the time to be. See, the thing with our people is that we have been infected with the colonizers' bug. You know, we want to be like the colonizer in every way, in every fashion. See, their whole thing is about being an individual and individualistic, when our people traditionally were communal, you know. And at this particular time, you are not going to survive trying to be an individual. You have to do things as a community, you know, as a collective, okay? Because if you think that you're going to survive what's getting ready to come down the pike as an individual, you're going to wind up in a concentration camp or dead. But, you know, you have to look at other groups of people like the Amish, you know, like the Jewish communities and stuff like that. You know, these people who, you know, move as a collective, and not as just one person. You know, we're the only people that, you know, want to be, you know, well, you know, I got mine, so I'm good, you know, you know, I ain't got time to worry about what everybody else is doing. You know, we think like that, you know, and that's our downfall. But we have to start being more communal. We have to start pooling our resources together. And, you know, not worry about what these people are going to, not worrying about, oh, is my job going to accept my religious exemption, or, you know, my reason for not getting the vaccine. You know, create your own job. You know, we shouldn't be begging. That's what Garvey was all about, being self-sufficient. You know, Carlos Cooks was being about self-sufficient. Noble Drew Ali was about being self-sufficient, you know. So, you know, we have to think in those terms and doing for self on all levels. If you're doing for self, then you're not worried about if they tell you that you can't go to the supermarket if you don't have proof of vaccination, because you grow your own food. You know, you're not worried about if you're going to get evicted out of your apartment or whatever, because you have your own land and you have a community behind you. You know, just study. I mean, if you want some good references, you know, get the book, The Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. I guarantee you, you'll never be the same after reading that book. Get the book, Carlos Cooks and Black Nationalism by Robert Harris. Get everything that you could get your hands on about Noble Drew Ali. And I guarantee you, you will never, your whole outlook will never be the same. Guaranteed. You'll think of things in a totally different fashion. Your whole scope will be broadened. You'll be ready to conquer the world. You know, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I'm concerned with a lot of things out here on the streets. One thing is evident that our people are not really in power. So when you're powerless right now, besides, you know, what is available to try to fight back, this is just the end result. I don't really tell people what to do with their bodies overall, because at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying, you have to make a conscious decision, because let's be fair and honest, a lot of our people, when we talk about entrepreneurship, and I don't push it much, I talk about it now recently because it was one of the models one of the things that is the saying of TRS, Talk Real Solutions, majority of people overall, especially if you're a black person, are not going to really have your own business like that. The only thing you could look forward to is like a hustle out here that might be a business, but even from what is already here and that's possibly down the pipe is when they start to push back with the accounts. You get me? Like one time it's like 10K. Now they were trying to push to make it 600. So these people, how they move is they strategize that if you go on that route, it's going to make it even harder for you to survive. You know what I'm saying? Especially in the West. If you're not really in a serious corporation, you're doing the employment of the hundreds of people. And even that alone, you have to really make a conscious decision if you're going to say, if I'm going to abide by these rules or I'm going to get fined, which is a couple $1,000. Which a couple $1,000, let's be honest, ain't shit. But we know all corporations are, at the end of the day, trying to make their bottom line and make the money. You know, so like I said, some people are going to be affected by this. Some might be injured. Some might lose their life. At the end of the day, you got to know your risk tolerance and figure out if you can make the best decision for yourself as a person. And if you can get around it, try to. If not, you know, just prepare yourself and try to have some precautions to start dealing with your body. Because let's be honest, truth, a lot of people are not good health-wise. As much as I don't want to say it, but when this thing happened, it affected everybody here in the West, especially America, because this country has a history of poor diet because we don't control the food system. Hell, some of us, we buy more than we grow in our own houses. And that's just the honest truth. So when we look at when these things like created pandemics or pandemics that's here or created, whatever you want to call it, is a byproduct of what we don't understand how nature works and how we as men and women should function in this digitized world. And I'm not saying you can't be digitized and understand technology. Technology is good when it's needed, but you have to still be connected to natural law and natural nature itself. And a lot of people, we're very much disconnected now in modern times. And it's going to hurt us, and it's going to bite us in the ass. You get me? And I know what Ali Muhammad, because he deals with health, caring people and stuff, which is good, that it's going to come to a point that people are going to have to really learn to go back to how they're going to heal their bodies, no matter what type of situation they put in or what they're going to put in their guts. I'm more focused, you know, people going to have to be proactive. It is what it is. You get me? And a lot of people are not proactive, bro. You get me? Not proactive at all. They're hoping that the government will heal them. They'll go to these institutions, go take their medicine, and hope all is for the best. And we all know that's not the damn case. It is what it is. You know. So I'm not sure if you want to chime in on that, but go ahead.
Yeah. So I just wanted to touch on one point that you mentioned. In terms of our people not being able to survive as an entrepreneur and be more just like doing a hustle. Again, you're thinking as an individual. I'm talking more as moving as a collective. Because what you're saying is true if you're thinking as an individual. And that's the whole problem, is that most of our people are just thinking as an individual. And I don't tell people what to do either. You know, I just lay it down and lay it out, you know, as it is, and let the people decide, you know, what they want to do for themselves. But if Marcus Garvey can accomplish all that he accomplished way back at the beginning of the 1900s, and here we have the internet, we have everything at the push of a button, where in all aspects of business you could even cut the middleman out, which you couldn't do before. If our people can't do these things with all that we have now, then it's like Marcus Garvey said. Then Garvey said, "You will die." That's what Garvey said. He said, if we can't do it, he said, you're nothing but good for nothing. But one of the things is our people, like I said before, our people are too caught up in thinking as an individual. We don't want to move as a collective. If you read those books that I was referencing, they lay so much out that our people haven't even considered. And we're talking again, these people were in the early 1900s and in the mid 1900s. And the stuff that they did back then, we're talking about people who had businesses, many businesses. Again, Garvey. I could do a whole 2-hour presentation on just Garvey alone. About stuff people don't know about Garvey. But we have to see. That's why when we talk about nationality, and we talk about being indigenous, you have groups of us who are doing things as a collective along those lines. Like for instance, there's groups of our people on reservations that look just like us, that you don't even know about, that look just like us, like right here in New York, many different nations right here. You got the Shinnecox in Long Island. You go on the Shinnecock reservation, you think you're in Harlem, and they've got land, they've got businesses, they're doing their thing. You got the you got the Poospatucks in Long Island. You go on the Poospatuck reservation. Those people look just like, if you go there, you think you were in Harlem or in Flatbush or any what you call black community. You go to the Pequot reservation in Connecticut. I could go on and on naming different reservations where there's groups of melanated people. But again, you wouldn't know these things unless you were exploring that aspect of our history and our people. But we have to start thinking as a collective and not as an individual. Collectively, we can do much because I don't have to preach to the choir about this here. You already know. You seem like a knowledgeable young brother, so you should know that. You should know that we have in our community so much. I'm talking about in terms of as a group. We have so much money in our community, but in terms of how many times that particular dollar circulates in our community, that same dollar leaves the community just as quick as it came into the community, as opposed to other communities where the dollar circulates damn near 11 times before it even tries to leave the community. You know what I'm saying? All nationalities know if you want to start making money, come to the quote-unquote black community. The Asians, they can come here and they could set up a nail salon.
A Chinese restaurant.
They know they're going to get paid.
Yeah.
They know they're going to get paid. They know the niggas are going to come, excuse my expression. They know the niggas are going to come and, they're going to make them rich. Or they could set up a MSG store. I'm sorry, I meant a Chinese food store. And they know they're going to get rich by selling you chicken wings and French fries and Chinese food that they don't even eat, you know, and or any other nationality. The pizza man can come, the Italian pizza man can come and set up shop in your community. He know he's going to get rich. Mickey D's know they can come into our community. They know they're going to get rich. You know, everybody knows they can come into our community and they're gonna, you know, they're gonna do well. You know, so if we can make everybody else prosper, why can't we prosper ourselves? Why can't we collectively do the same thing? That tells me that something is psychologically wrong with our people. You know, why is it that nobody respects our people? They don't respect us because we don't respect ourselves. Instead of us coming together and collectively doing something to better ourselves, you know, we'd rather be separate and try to do our own thing. So, of course, nobody's going to respect you. The Chinese man or the Chinaman in your community can look at you and follow you around the store, you know, and maybe even go upside your head, you know, and accuse you of stealing, and know that, you know, your people ain't going to do nothing but sit back and complain after he done smacked your wife upside the head or whatever. You ain't going to do nothing, you know, because he has no respect for you, you know, and they know you're not going to do nothing, you know, or any other nationality. You know, this is what goes on. You know, even some of our people, even from the continent, they come over here and they see our people the same way, a bunch of lazy Americans. You know, I hate to say it, but that's how, you know, I got a lot of African friends, you know, and this is how they see our people, you know, because even among them who come over here, like I live in New York, right? So you go to Harlem from 125th Street, going all the way to like 138th Street, it's like little Africa. The Africans own all the businesses. I wouldn't say all the businesses, but I'd say about like 75, 80% of the businesses, you know, within that radius. Okay, and they come over here and they thrive. But those same Africans, they don't have a high respect and regard for our people here. They don't. You know, even some of our people from the Caribbean. You know, I'm not knocking our people from the Caribbean. My mother's from the Caribbean. But, you know, a lot of them have the same attitude. So what's wrong with our people here? Why everybody else, you know, can come here and thrive and we can't? What is wrong psychologically? I'm asking because, you know.
Let me say this. For the people, the foreign blacks that come here, that you might think they're working hard and they got here with nothing, don't be fooled by that. They got here solely with foreign aid. You know, the United States government has given foreign aid to, I think, almost 200 countries. More of them are in Africa and the Caribbean. And with that foreign aid, it gives them the liberty to come here. And if they play the cards right, which most of them do, they're able to set up shop and don't pay taxes for the first 10 years on the average. So for most of that's been here since the inception of America, they are really own what is rightfully theirs. So when they talk about black men and women, adults or Aboriginal Americans, telling that they're lazy, don't be fooled. You cannot be lazy in America. It's impossible for a black person to do that, especially if you've been here for centuries. When they do that,
I don't say it. You know, I'm just saying that's what I hear. You know.
They'll tell you that because they're trying to throw it in your face. And I'm telling most black people when they hear that, ignore that. And if they getting real boasty, you tell them, say, if it wasn't from our foreparents that fought for civil rights, your black ass that's from either from Trinidad, Jamaica, or any part of Africa, especially Nigeria, you will not be able to get here and come here and reap the benefits while the backs of black Americans. And I want more black people, especially, to express that hard. Because there is a sense of disrespect that no one's saying, you're one generation away of becoming a nigger in America if you're not originally from America. So let them know, say, keep that in mind, that this country is known to make and create niggas. You get me?
That's a fact.
So they're thinking like that.
I always give them the history lesson.
Good.
Yeah. Continue. I didn't mean to cut your wisdom, but yeah, I do.
Yeah. So good. So that's why I try to express that heavily. Right now, if you look at what's going on, they are going to import black Haitians in America by the thousands. Right. Don't be fooled what you're seeing on TV of the whipping and stuff. They're trying to create an atmosphere or a climate that you must draw sympathy because they're going to bring them in.
Right.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of dumb idiots, from male content creators to females, especially females, thinking that, the white man's doing some favor, push him out. No, he's letting them in. He's giving you the glimpse of the abuse so that way when you're not looking and your back is turned, you see a whole bunch of them in your neighborhoods. That's how this shit works. Yeah. So remember, the percent of ADOS in America, and I know one woman did a content on this extensively with some research. She found only 10% of people that's descendants of slaves or Aborigines is only 10% here in this country. Only 10%. So every decade, your numbers are slowly decreasing because you're being, what do you call it?
Replaced?
Not replaced. You're being absorbed.
Yeah.
When people, remember, I'm free. When they talk about replacement, they're talking about absorption.
Yeah.
Because where are you going? Where are your black ass going? Are you going to go to the suburbs or some other parts of America, particularly down south? You're being absorbed into the society, and we're the last stage of removing and not paying no black person that's been here for centuries. And remember, they have a bill in place now for reparations, but they're holding off it until you are at a certain percentage that is minuscule for them to say, okay, it's time to pay up. It would be the same situation what we have in Australia. When you see it went down to millions to almost under 20.
Right, Australia. Yep.
That's how it works. And now, I don't know if they got any reparation, but let's say they give it to them. It don't make sense because you're no longer a population. You are actually almost at extinction rate once you get down to thousands.
True.
And that's what they want ADOS, original Aboriginal black people, men and women in America to be. And they're going to fulfill that before 2053. And everybody knows 2053 is what we consider, or what they call the browning of America. The browning. So that means it will be, the assimilation process or the absorption process will be complete in the next 20 years, at best. Yeah. Because if you're down to 10%, and these people that are original descendants, that's going to cut down to 5% in the next decade, and it goes down to 3%, and in the next 20 years, it will be down to less than 3%. And we all know the number what 3% is going to be down to now to the thousands, 100,000s. You get me? Don't be fooled that they are working hard overtime and really to get this assimilation speed up so they can meet their quota. If God willing, they do, which they already do numbers on this, is now they want this black chick, this black bitch, to absorb with the non-black man, which really she's already doing already. Because we look at, when I saw one content creator, elder, say that when we talk about the mixing of the race, they know most black men are doing it, but also the black woman's doing it secretly that people are not paying attention. Because remember, she's not screwing what we call the top tier of these other groups' culture. She's screwing the bottom shell ones. You get me? The lower ones. Because she having babies and not even getting married. So yes, ladies, these other groups of men will love to sleep with you and bang your throat out. But regardless, marry in long term. Oh no, that's not in the equation. They said only can have that. But remember, it's all about purity and keeping the resource to themselves. Remember, Europeans are very selfish. See, people think racism is something that is a created construct. It is, but you know why they create it? Because they are parasites. How can I create an environment where the end game is I gotta suck the blood off of you? It defeats the purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take knowledge or books. You gotta see it and have an understanding. Certain books will help facilitate what you already know or what you think it is, but really, this is how the game is being played. They're parasites. I gotta suck your blood to live, and if I just suck you dry, I will do it and be on and move on to the next host.
True.
So yes, absorption is going to come more on the female side now, which you hear a lot of these women that are sick in the head. Somehow they're going somewhere and doing this. And I said, where are you going? You're going to another community that is really already controlled rate from our community, which we rarely have any communities, right? We just have neighborhoods and people not working together. That's the only problem with black people because we have a mentality of individualism greater than tribalism. And not only that, but we as a race of people, we think and believe that we have arrived, that we are actually free, and we think that we're really free, but we're not. Because freedom, if you have not fought and bled for freedom, you don't know what freedom really is.
True.
That's how it is. That's the end game of a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I hope that was clear. And listen, this is the last call. I'm going to end the show, so I'm going to give the call in one more time for those who have questions. Now, y'all guys got at least a couple minutes or so before I wrap this up. So I'm going to give the call number one more time. 712-770-4160. The access code is 917-324-POUND. Tonight's subject, Chaos Reign presents The Honest Truth of an Aboriginal. Oh, I see somebody in the comment section. Let me look. Where Africans at? Okay, a lot of people are giving emojis. The chat room's a little small in YouTube, but you know it is what it is. And also, one dude said my name, and it's funny. This man right here is very irrelevant. And the funny thing, I doubt he'll call in. I find it interesting, and I'm going to reference this individual, that he has a problem with what I do on my channel here on the TRS side, on podcasts and YouTube, on what I do, and like I'm shitting on his name, but I tell him personally, you're not really relevant for me to waste time shit on because you shit on your own self, sir. You get me? I mean, when I go around certain things on YouTube with other content creators, I try to stay on the subject matter. Unlike you trying to use shaming and other language and things that I've done here to make it seem like I ain't shit. But the problem is you ain't shit either. Because you've been doing this for almost over a decade. And the most you have gross is only close to 5K subscribers. And everybody else that's been doing this shit for longer than me, or maybe you if you ever do content on YouTube, is I'm still fresh in it, and I'm late to this party where it's hard to build an audience. Not making no excuse, but it's a little challenge now. But back then, you had the free range to build a big audience, but squander it. And the reason why, because, and this is what for young people that's going to do content on YouTube or podcasts, notice, always take advantage while the pot is hot and ready to go. If there's new platforms and websites created where you could create your creativity without paying a fraction, go hard and do so and try to maintain it as best as possible. Don't be like losers that do content for years and decades and all they'll show for is not even close to 30 or 50K subscribers or wherever of audience. You just defeat your purpose. If you're going to do all that and that's as big as you're going to get, it tells me as a person, when I look at it, and I'm being honest, and we got to be honest as creators, that you're just irrelevant. You're not that relevant. And most time, most black men don't want to admit this, but I'm speaking personally, that's what it is. It is what it is. And that's honesty. Not shame or hate. No serious insult. It is what it is. So if you are that irrelevant, what you said to any other content creator, like me or anybody that puts content that you don't like, my advice, just don't listen. Turn around, fuck off. It's that simple. My shit is not for everybody. I've done content with many guests, brother, and some of the guests I brought on were extraordinary. If you follow me on YouTube, you like my shit.
Okay.
I mean, on the average, you go like it because if you look at the amount of guests I have, I drop some good information. The only problem is not to liking on this side for growth, because it's not exciting. It's not somewhere we having black people, men and women, argue with each other all day, every day.
Right.
What they call gender battles, gender wars. That dumb shit. Somebody say you ain't shit. You ain't shit. Okay, so y'all both ain't shit together. So copulate and make a baby. Remember, that's the best time y'all make babies, when y'all argue amongst each other and say you ain't shit. That's the only time when the pussy gets real wet. That's the only time when the man's dick gets real hard. And all of a sudden y'all sit there and kiss, hug, and get the booty clapping, and pound beating that, blowing that back. That's the best time to have some real hardcore sex. But that's another story. But anyway, but like I said, my content's not for everybody's cup of tea, and it is what it is. And like I said, if for most of them, like this individual, feels a president that this is what I get because I'm talking about, I say you're not relevant for anybody to talk about. Because I don't do content for you or anybody else. I do this because I like what I do and I care and I want something out of this. If I didn't give a crap about this, I would have stopped tomorrow. It is what it is. No shame in the game. Not everybody could do this. And I tell most people, as anybody that's looking to do podcasting or content on YouTube, this is not for the faint of heart. I want to advise everybody to do this because this is work. You're going to have times where you're not going to get no one watching your shit. Hell, you get sometimes where you'll put up something and you hope and pray that it'll get viral. You're going to have to accept that as a person that's on this journey. But noticing that nothing comes easy. It requires dedication, sacrifice, and a whole lot of hell work. So that's it. No one else has their hands up. So if you want, I got one person. All right, caller, open your line. Who's this?
What's going on, KL? This Chopper.
What's good, Chopper? And I see in the back, Jay. I'll let you up in a second.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, though I wait and hear some of the Africans call in. I want to hear what they had to say. I want to hear the question they asked. They had a lot of questions for everybody else. But comes some good information. I'd like to hear some of the Africans, what they got to say.
Oh, you mean the actual Africans call in? That's what you're looking for?
The African Americans.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool. Well, if you have no questions, I'll move on to the next caller. Is that cool? Chopper? All right, cool. Thank you. All right, Jay. What's good, brother? This is the man right here.
What's going on, y'all?
Yeah.
Peace.
All right, peace, brother. I'm glad. Good show. I'm glad that everything went well. I hope the people got some clarification on some of their questions, or that they had, or maybe didn't submit. But I know that one of the reasons why I have requested for the brother to be on is because there's a lot of, if you want to say, debate, but we have two different sides. People have want to know more about this stuff, even though those that disagree, because they might not have the right information or information that connects to what others are trying to bring. So that was good, I think. But I have two questions that's a little off. It's connected, but it's off, right? So the two questions would be like, for number one, how do you feel about, I just seen, there was big coverage on this white young lady that disappeared, and it was found out that she was murdered. by her boyfriend. There was large coverage in the last 2 weeks on this young lady, and you know, my heart goes out to the family. I mean, doesn't matter whether she's white or not. It's sad how it ended, but at the same time, it was brought forward, which has been spoke about in the past, about you know, our African American sisters here and Native Americans, the lack of investigation or follow-ups on these investigations by law enforcement, and also the lack of coverage by media. You know, so I wanted to get your perspective on that. If you know about the story, I'm pretty sure you heard about it. And then also the second question would be, how do you feel about indigenous Native Americans being involved in government, you know, as particular to the sister, I don't know, I think she's in the Santee Dakota, Sioux, Jenny Hovland. The sister that's actually, she's a Native American that's involved in government right now, I think in the Biden cabinet. And how do you feel about more Native Americans and indigenous people, however you want to look at them, you know, black African American, all the way to, you know, however they identify, but again, you know, connecting their native roots here in the United States and being involved in government more of. You know, do you agree with that? Do you disagree? You know, how do you see that? So those are two questions that I have. And again, thanks for coming on, brother. I think it was a good show, and I'll sit back.
Well, thank you, brother. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, well, in terms of the first question in regards to the young lady who was murdered by her husband, yeah, you know, when it comes to our people, you know, we don't get the same attention to these type of things as the other people of the Caucasian persuasion, you know, whether you talk about, you know, those who are indigenous or, you know, those of us melanated people who, you know, come from the continent or wherever, you know, we don't get the same attention. It's sad, but you know, that's how it is. Also, in regards to the politics, and indigenous people in politics, I'm gonna be totally honest with you. I'm more for self-determination and being sovereign unto ourselves, as opposed to being part of the U.S. corporation's political system. Because number one, as indigenous people, see, with a lot of these different what they call indigenous nations, a lot of them are supposed to be, so a lot of people think that what they call indigenous people on the reservations are sovereign, but they're not really completely sovereign. And the reason for that is because once you have federal recognition, then you have waived your sovereignty, because you are under federal jurisdiction. So you don't want to be under federal jurisdiction or be connected with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, because then the government owns you. So I'm all for maintaining sovereign status as indigenous people. And that goes back in line with what we were talking earlier about Marcus Garvey, Carlos Cooks, Noble Drew Ali, you know, in terms of governing ourselves and doing for ourselves on all levels, because once you involve these people into your affairs, then, you know, they're the ones who are going to, at the end of the day, have the say as to what you can and can't do. Like, for instance, years ago on the Narragansett Reservation, they were raided. Their reservation smoke shop was raided for selling cigarettes. You know, now if you're completely sovereign, then how is it that the authorities can come and pull you out of your smoke shop and get into a physical altercation with you for selling cigarettes on your own land? You know, because, you know, when you go on the reservation and, you know, they sell the cigarettes, you know, blah, 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 you know, and they're not taxed or whatever, you know, they have a big issue. But the thing is that if you're sovereign and you don't have the government in your business on any level, then they can't tell you anything. Let's look at the Amish. If you look at the Amish, they don't tell the Amish anything. But again, the Amish, they don't contract with these people. And the most thing you'll see the Amish doing, they'll come into the stores and, they'll sell their eggs, the Amish eggs and stuff like that, and, whatever other, natural products that, they make and things like that. And that's pretty much it. Other than that, they have very little contact with outside entities. Not to, I'm sorry to go off on a tangent, but that's, pretty much it in a nutshell.
Okay, cool. Again, thanks a lot, man.
Oh, you're welcome, brother.
All right. Thank you, JNYC. Respect. Thank you. All right. Now, the solution parts. What solutions you can, I guess, lay out, if possible, on how people should operate moving forward in this uncertain environment, Western environment?
Yeah, I would say in terms of solutions, the main thing that our people can do is get back to the point that we were in terms of, from a community perspective and business-wise, that we were before we started integrating. We have to, they destroyed the family structure, also, we have allowed these people to influence us, to adopt their culture. You got to give all of that stuff back. You got to get all of this Western stuff out of your mind. If you don't change the mindset, you can't change anything else. We need a family structure, and family doesn't mean, like they've conditioned us away from how it was originally. But family for us, for our people, wasn't the nuclear family. That's their thing. Ours was an extended family. So a family wasn't just your wife and your children. Family was your family in your house. It was your mom. It was Big Mama. It was the neighbor next door to you. You know what I'm saying? It was a whole village, a whole village of us, and it even when it came to raising children, it was a village that raised the children, So we have to come back to a mindset of being communal, and come to a mindset of doing things communally as opposed to individual. And once you adopt that mindset and ideology, everything else will fall into place just by default.
Excellent.
And,
Excellent. No, if you continue. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
And I would say, those references that I mentioned earlier, I would say I would highly recommend reading those books. The Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey, Carlos Cook's and Black Nationalism, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali's works, and also I would say read the book Return of the Ancient Ones by Empress Verdiashi Tiari Ghostin Ilbay. So you read those books, and like I say, anything on Noble Drew Ali that you could get your hands on. Read those books, and you'll have a totally different mindset. Our ancestors laid out everything for us. If our people can create a Black Wall Street, back in the days, we should damn be able to do the same thing in this modern day and age. That's pretty much it.
All right. Well, seek truth. I thank you.
Feerce Truth Seeker.
I'm a truth seeker. I'm sorry, truth seeker. Truth.
Truth
Seeker. Truth seeker. Yes, truth seeker. Thank you, Nick, for creating. Thank you for coming on to tonight's show. I think we did a pretty fair job on this subject matter, and I think we lay out enough information. I think one thing people should take out of this whole stream is that don't just go into the books like it's something. Try to have a clear perception and overall open mind when you go through old books, in my opinion. One thing, what I've noticed, and this applies to both men and women, and I could say some women too, but mostly this applies more to women than men if the man's reading the books, that do not take any book and pick apart certain sections of the book and use it as content for your platform to pose a point, or to even go as far as to put out information that was laid out for us that could be used as somewhat of a minuscule weapon or a little weapon of, like to say. And what I mean by half-truths, that I want you to really go in and give the background of the whole author and the book and why the book was written.
True.
I've noticed now with a lot of content creators now that they are using some of these old books that was laid out decades ago to use as content as a weapon towards war against men and women, black people especially. I've heard from one previous content creator that does content now that he had his views and opinions of Marcus Garvey in a very negative way. Like this man didn't do shit, he was not pretty much about shit, and then nothing really accomplished. But we have to understand, back then, he did accomplish a little bit more than what black people that's been here for centuries have not really doing now, fortunately.
True.
And it's funny how they had to take a person from that's not from this country to take the opinions and not philosophy, but things that he came here searching to build in his own little island and eventually expand to Africa at the time. He had to learn that, and he was going to learn the skills here in America, mind you. So I want black people, ADOS, Aborigines should know that you have power, but you must exercise your power effectively and with strength and what they call it, what's the word? With honesty and without no fear. You're very much talented people. You've done and have shown that you create and make great things. But one thing that stifles your progression move forward is what type of unity you're trying to gain and making what you're trying to create out of nothing possible. And it does take numbers to make things a reality. And as long as we as people here function as an individual and move beyond working enough as a collective, and I don't mean, when I mean collective, I don't mean all 100%. I'm talking about just enough. And there's no real serious percentage because it could range from 25% to even as low as 10%. The point at the end of the day is you have to work with other people in your group. That's how all other nations, other tribes do it. The European, the reason why he still functions and trying to hold on to the power he has because he still knows he has to work enough with the group.
Mm-hmm.
If he does not, he is finished. It's that simple. But he conditioned you, man, black woman in America, to work as an individual. It's a point now that you are using platforms for a form of greed and popularity.
That's true.
And I say to you, go right ahead and continue to do it, but don't bitch and complain about this system. Matter of fact, I would advocate most people don't even talk bad about this Caucasian man and his system because you love it. You indulge it. You lust for him. Hell, you will go on your knees and suck him dry if needed.
That's
just
true.
To get a piece of him.
And they do it literally.
They do it with a smile on the face, bro. Both the man
just
and the woman. I don't care. Just for that. There you go. So that's all I'm gonna say. Thank you, Truth Seeker. If anything, if anything else, like I said, just hit me up, and depending on what I'm doing, we'll do something again. But
I look forward to it.
Like I said, this is a thing that's I brought out just have the conversation, and I'd like to give thanks to Jay NYC. He's the one that had me.
True.
Try to do this show, so give praise to Jace, like always.
Yeah,
but that's all for me. But thank you, and we'll talk soon. All right, brother?
Yo, thank you for having me, man. It's a wonderful show, man. Wonderful show.
All right, then. Take care now.
Okay, you too, brother. How do I see the acquire?
No, don't worry. I got you.
Okay.
You get me?
All right.
But remember, I would love that message of what we talked about earlier.
Okay.
Once you hit me up, I will normally let you know.
Okay, sounds good, man. Sounds good.
Good.
For sure.
Okay. Oh, and one other thing, is there anywhere where people can find you? I forgot that.
Oh yeah, I'm on Facebook, Feerce Truth-Seeker, FEERCE Truth-Seeker. Also on YouTube, The Red Road East. Yeah, catch me on those two. I'm on Instagram too, Feerce Truth-Seeker.
Okay. And when you do send me it, please send me the links so I will put that in the description. All right, then.
Good.
We'll talk again soon. All right. Take care.
Okay. Thank you, brother.
Yep.
Peace.
And for everybody else tonight for listening to today's stream, I thank you. If you have any thoughts or feelings of what you heard on the stream, leave in the comment section of this podcast /live stream. Also, you could hit me up on Facebook, Erick Reign, and you can now follow me on Twitter at ChaosReign7. So that's it for me. Until next time, take care and good night.
I'd like to give a special thanks to the Feerce Truth Seeker for being the special guest of today's stream. And the links to subscribe or follow will be in the description. And like always, comment, subscribe, and like this video. You can follow me at Twitter at ChaosReign7, and now follow me on Facebook, Erick Reign on Facebook. Thank you for listening again. Until next time, videos reign.